Today I break down 10 photography mistakes that I see all the time, and more importantly, I'm going to show you how to fix them. This applies to landscape, wildlife, nature, architectural photography, night photography, honestly, any style of photography. Now, I've made every mistake myself, so don't worry, this is a judgment-free zone. So with that, let's get started. If you are new to this channel, my name is Matt Shannon and I am a full-time photographer in beautiful British Columbia. Whether you're here to learn, be inspired, or simply enjoy some stunning visuals, you've come to the right place. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this. Now the first one is shooting everything at eye level. Now this might be obvious for some of you, but changing your height can really switch up your composition and the story that you want to share. Most people never change their height. Wherever they're standing, they put the camera up to their eye and they take the photo. And you stay standing, photos look average and disconnected. Now to fix this, you want to get low for drama, or high maybe for context. Kneel down, even lie down, climb on something. Now it makes sense that these different angles are going to be more compelling, more interesting, because they're going to be different than our level of viewing day to day. Another mistake is not practicing in bad conditions. Wind, fog, rain. We definitely avoid these conditions. And there's a reason why, because we have very expensive camera equipment. That's a lot of rain. So when we see it's crazy weather outside, we tend not to jump out into it, knowing that our gear could be compromised. But these conditions can bring mood, drama, a story to your images, especially because wildlife and nature experience all of this, and so you can be the only one out there capturing it. These will definitely give you mood and drama and a unique shot that other photographers won't get. Number 3, thinking bright light equals good light. Midday is harsh, contrasty, and unflattering. Now the fix is to look for soft light, backlight, shade, overcast, golden hour. Another mistake is not understanding depth of field. We shallow our depth of field by controlling the aperture, so wide open aperture to let a lot of light in is going to shorten that depth of field. If you have a longer lens, so telephoto lenses, the longer the lens, the shallower the depth of field you're going to have. And then the last thing is how close you get. So the closer I get to my subject and what I'm shooting, it's going to have a shallower depth of field. So on the flip side, if you have a super wide angle lens, you're far away from the mountains, everything is going to be in focus. So depending on your focal length, how close you are to the subject, and your aperture, your depth of field is going to change. Now the fix for this is checking your work, seeing what sort of shots you can get at different focal length, or by closing down or opening up your aperture. It's going to take a lot of practice. But there's another fix for this, and that is using a calculator. By punching in your focal length, your aperture, and how far away you are from a subject, you can actually measure the depth of field. Now, I like to use photo pills. They're not sponsoring this video, but it is a great tool to punch in your focal length, how far you are away from the subject, and your aperture, and it'll spit out what your depth of field will be for the subject you're focused on. Now this is a great tool for landscape photographers and wildlife photographers. Now if you're liking this list so far, be sure to stick to the end because I have a bonus mistake that I think a lot of photographers make when photographing in winter conditions. Number 5, shooting with too slow of a shutter. Now you don't want a good shot to be ruined by motion blur. We might want our ISO to be really low, and so we sacrifice the shutter speed. There is a rule of thumb that you set your shutter speed to 1 over your focal length. So if you have a 500 mil, you are shooting 1/500th of a second for your shutter speed. This is great to cancel out you, the photographer's movement. This does not help with your subject moving really fast. So that might be a good default to start with, is the 1 over your focal length rule of thumb. But there's a few other things to consider here. One, we're moving, and depending on how you're holding your camera, you might move around quite a bit. 2, your subject might be moving, and it might be moving very fast or quite slow. That's going to change your shutter speed. 3, the vessel or wherever you're standing on or sitting might be moving as well. So if you were someone shooting from a moving boat, or you're up in a plane or a helicopter, you need to take into consideration the movement or vibrations that that vessel is going to have on your camera. So I think as far as the default goes, you want to shoot one over your focal length. If your subject is moving quite fast, moving birds, well then you want to increase your shutter speed depending on how fast the movement of that bird is. You also have to think about how far away your subject is. The closer it is to you, any of those movements are going to be a lot quicker across your focal plane. Now, it's one thing if you wanted the eyes to be tack sharp and the wings to be a bit blurry. Now, it might be your creative freedom to see a little bit of motion blur to get the sense of motion, but you're really riding on a fine line, and it's always safe to be too fast of a shutter than too slow. Now, an easy fix is to have minimum shutter speeds of, say, 2,000th of a shutter for birds. And different size of birds equals different speeds. Like a hummingbird, you want to be at 1/8,000th if you want to freeze any of the action. For eagles, since they're so big and they have big wings, you can drop that way down to like 1/2000th of a second. Now for mammals, you can be at 1,000, sometimes even less. And then for landscape that doesn't move, you can go really slow, especially if you're on a tripod. Now, if you're having issues with blurry images and it isn't the shutter speed, well then I have a whole other video that describes how to get sharp images, and I offer a free PDF that you can download. The link is down in the description, so if you want that free PDF on getting sharp images, there's a lot more information there. Number 6, over editing your images. Now, I have overdone it with my images plenty of times, and I can tell you when you really go crazy with those sliders, whether it's clarity, sharpness, saturation, it can look really bad. And so it's really important to step away from the computer and then come back. Ask your spouse, a family member, a friend to take a look at the image and to have them explain what jumps out to them. What is distracting? What did they first view and see when they looked at your image? Now the fix is to edit with intention, not with emotion. Subtle adjustments equals more professional results. If you really want to add a lot of wow in your image, it's better to allow nature to do that for you, shooting at good light, than to shoot midday and trying to fix and wowsy your image in post-processing. Number 7, ignoring the background. Now beginners often just look at the subject. So if you're photographing wildlife, they don't think about the background. They're just chasing that headshot, that body shot, and they're missing the way the light hits, the way the branches moves and pull your eyes in. Having the subject set to the scene of the background can make and break your images. Now the thing is, distractions can kill your shot. You can have messy lines, maybe bright spots. All of these things could take your eyes away from the subject and pull them into the background, when you really want the background to work in a harmony with your subject. Now the fix to this is to train your eyes to scan the whole frame, especially the edges. If you don't want something in your scene, move and cut it out. Not everyone has a chance to crop things in and out of your image, so doing this in the field is the best practice, and then you can tweak things in post-processing if you need to. Now another mistake is no story and no intention. Now a photo can be sharp, well lit, but still feel empty. The fix is to ask yourself, what is this image about? Make every decision, light, angle, and moment support that idea. You're telling a story. What is that story? Is it the first snow? Is it a morning sunrise with dew on the ground? Pull the viewer in. Number 9's mistake, chasing gear instead of skill. Now if you say this line, no, my photography will improve once I buy blank. Or, now if I had that equipment, if I had that lens, if I had that camera, I would be able to shoot this. Now this is rarely true. I mean, film cameras that only cost $200 can really capture a moment, even give it that granular film look. Now the fix for this is to invest in technique. Now the composition, timing, patience, and light All of those are going to make you a better photographer, not the equipment that you're using. Now, I understand gear can help. If you have a camera that can shoot 30 frames per second, as opposed to a camera that only can do 3 frames per second, there's a huge advantage having that fast frame rate if you're photographing birds, with their wings in the right position. Not having that gear doesn't mean that you can't get award-winning images. Now, the technology has gone so far, so fast, that we can take amazing images from cameras that are created 10 years ago. Number 10's mistake, not being patient enough. Now, this is a huge mistake in wildlife and landscape photography, where you have photographers that show up for, 30 seconds, maybe it's 10 minutes, and they kind of just get fed up and they leave. I've seen this when I've waited for a train for 3 days to get the perfect shot, and I even slept in my Jeep just waiting for that moment where I would hear the train with the windows down and the snow falling to get out, run into position, and get that shot. And then I've seen it in wildlife photography where I've photographed short-eared owls staying in one spot for 8 hours in an area where I knew they were flying around, and just making sure that the background is exactly the way I want it to, that there was no distractions, that if I moved from the north position to the east position, I'm still going to get a great shot. And yet I've seen other photographers around me pack up their gear and march to the location of the owls. And the owls have wings. They can fly so fast, so far, so quick back to me before the photographers can even set up their tripods again and get any photos. That's the fix. You need to slow down. Wait for the behavior, the light changes, or a cleaner shot. Now, I will say that my best photos are from being patient. Now, here's one last bonus mistake. Is photographers photographing in winter and the snow is gray. They've properly metered. They might have it on auto ISO or shutter or aperture priority, and their camera sees all the snow as being really bright. So when you take that photo at perfect exposure, you get gray snow. But we know that snow is very bright and white. So the fix for this is to use exposure compensation if you are using an auto setting on your camera. By using the exposure compensation, you want to bring it up by a full stop, sometimes even more, depending on how much snow is in your scene comparative to your subject that's darker than the snow. So I hope you loved this list. Maybe you have some mistakes of your own that I didn't list that you would like to share down below. Let me know which ones you've corrected, which ones you're the master of, because I think we can all learn from one another and grow as photographers together. Thank you so much for watching. If you aren't subscribed, think about subscribing, and I hope to see you on the next episode. Ciao.